What's going on, everybody? And welcome to the 200th episode of the With Her Two Hands podcast. I am your host, Bogi, and I am thrilled to be celebrating this milestone 200 episodes of celebrating women in the trades. For those of you who have been around for some time, you know that this series started out as a different series. It used to live on Instagram and it was called Trades Lady Happy Hour. And it started out during COVID times. I had no idea that this series would continue on as long as it has. And I'm thrilled that it has because it has been one of the greatest joys in my life. Being able to sit down with the women that I get to meet through this series has absolutely changed my life, fills my cup, and inspires me and keeps me going every day. I'm so grateful for all of our industry partners who have made it possible to keep this series going. And I'm most grateful for each and every one of you for tuning in each week and spending part of your day to learn about and meet the incredible women of the trades. Throughout the years, this series has changed name, it has changed its platform, it has changed its background. But the one thing that hasn't changed is its purpose and its format. So we will always be candid and informal conversations with women in the trades. And the purpose is always going to be celebrating the absolutely amazing women who work day in and day out in various aspects of the industrial trade. If you've seen this show before, you've heard me say that is my hope that one day this show is not necessary, that one day we are all just tradespeople. Some of us happen to be female, and that it doesn't matter, that it's a non-issue. And every once in a while, I interview a woman for whom it has been a non-issue, and I am so excited for the future because I do think it's coming. Change never happens as fast as we want it to, but it is happening. And I hope one day that this series is looked at as, like, why would that be necessary? But for right now, it is, because women still make up less than 10% across all of the trades, and in some trades as low as 1 or 2%. But I truly believe that if she can see it, she can be it. That when little girls see women doing all sorts of different types of work, no matter what it is, that she will grow up knowing that she can do and be anything she sets her mind to. I also believe that it's important for him to see it too, to hear their stories, to celebrate along with them, to hear their challenges, to hear how they overcame those challenges and celebrate their wins with them, because it will normalize seeing women in the trades. When I meet older men and tell them that I'm a mechanic, they are generally always shocked. When I tell younger men, and definitely little boys, that I'm a mechanic, their reaction is, cool, like it's a non-issue. The more little boys and men see women working in a variety of roles, the less weird it is when they encounter a woman in the workforce. The less weird it is when a woman shows up at their door as their contractor or their plumber or their electrician. The less weird it is when their little girl says, Daddy, I want to work on cars, or I want to fix planes, right? It makes men better fathers, better brothers, better friends, better guidance counselors, better teachers, mentors, better coworkers. So I thank every one of you for being a part of this incredible series, for being part of what keeps it going week after week, for coming back and watching these episodes, for sharing these episodes with the people who need to hear them. It has absolutely been my honor to be able to sit down with so many incredible women throughout the years. I've had the privilege of sitting down with women who are auto mechanics, helicopter mechanics, airplane mechanics, construction workers, plumbers, electricians, contractors, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, fabricators, welders, restoration technicians, you name it. I've also sat down with women who are just starting out in their career, just graduating school or not even yet graduated, as well as women who have paved the way years ago with 30, 40, even 50 years of experience. I've learned so much from these incredible women and continue to learn from them and continue to be inspired by them. So much has changed in the last 50 years. And yet sometimes it feels like so little. Throughout this series, I have been constantly reminded of how far we have come and also how far we still have to go. I have ended episodes wanting to cry with how heartbroken I am at how little things have changed. And then there's times when I end a podcast high on life, giddy with excitement, filled with optimism and positivity because I've just spent an hour with a woman who has had nothing but positive experiences and support and great mentors and great friendships and great acceptance all along her career. I know it sounds trite, but I have laughed, I've cried, I've been inspired, I've been in awe. I am constantly impressed with the tenacity, the grit, the willingness to push past our comfort zones, the willingness to say yes in spite of fear, the willingness to continue to push oneself just a little further, to take on challenges, to dive into the unknown, to jump in head first, to follow your passions, regardless of your fears or your trepidations. The women I have sat down with are absolutely incredible. So for this 200th episode, I thought maybe we'd do something a little bit different. Rather than me interview somebody and have somebody join us live, that maybe we do a little bit of looking back over the past 200 episodes. A couple of my favorite clips throughout the years. There are so many to choose from, and there was no way to narrow it down. So if you are not included in this collection, ladies, my apologies. Every single one of you has made an impact on my life. But there's 200 episodes, guys, that you can go back and listen to and watch and meet these incredible ladies and hear their stories and celebrate and cheer them on and learn from their struggles and their challenges and be inspired by their courageousness and their wins and enjoy this little collection of snippets. And make sure you check out all of the past episodes. Of course, you can listen anytime, anywhere you get your podcasts, but it's always fun to join us live over on YouTube. Make sure you follow along on the social medias as well. So without further ado, as you know, I like to say, let's get on with celebrating some of these ladies.
I started in construction when I was 18.
I am Letty Rodriguez. I am a welder.
Kate Cook, and I'm the artist and owner of Asphalt Canvas Custom Art.
My name is Ana Paula. I'm a motorcycle mechanic. Today I'm only working with Harley Davidson motorcycles at Gumps Garage here in Brazil. And I'm 29 years old, and I'm in this industry for about 8 years.
My name is Anastasia. I own a all-female renovation company called Fix It Females. We are based in the GTA of Toronto, which is in Ontario, in Canada.
My name is Celeste. I am a artist blacksmith. I do mostly architectural work, so I do like gates, railings, lighting, furniture, basically whatever you need out of metal. I do a lot of non-ferrous metals, which is kind of unusual. So I do a lot of bronze, copper, and then I'm a blacksmith. So that means that I'm shaping the metal. So I can start out with a piece of square metal, and then I can squish it into whatever shape I want it to be.
My name's Angie, and I've been in the automotive industry for about 14 years now.
So I'm Carolyn. I do body and paint. I've been doing classic car restorations for about 10 years now. I actually started off in collision work and just kind of fell into restorations by chance. I'm from Philly. I live out towards Allentown now in PA.
I am Angelina Alcandar, and I work at a Play-Doh factory. No, I'm just kidding. I teach automotive at Riverside City College. I used to be a technician. I started at about 15. My dad doesn't know much about cars. He is a musician, so he's a music man, and cars are none of his concern at all. So I don't really come from a family of mechanics.
I hear that.
It was so I was like an odd duck. I really don't know where I got it.
So I'm Teresa Contreras with LGE CTS Motorsports, with Baja Forged, and with Real Deal Revolution. Grew up in a family business. Basically, I grew up when I was, a couple years old, basically, working in the garage with, my parents. My mom was sanding cars with my dad. She was out riding motorcycles with my dad. And so I was doing all of those things as well, with them. So we've always been into off-roading. We've always been into, working on cars in the garage. Kind of not afraid about that. My parents have always been like, hey, just go out and, do things, try things. Not really worried like, oh, you're a girl, or anything like that. It was just like, oh, just go do this, I always tell people, my dad was stuck with two girls, but he didn't treat us like that. My mom didn't either. We dressed up and did really cool, fun things. And then we also, worked in the garage and got dirty and helped load trailers and rode motorcycles and just, that's, what we did.
Well, I'm a current shop owner. I have a shop with my sister. We're in the suburbs of Chicago. We opened back in 2018 to the general public, but before that we were a taxi fleet maintenance shop. So that's really where I learned how to work on cars. I worked on cars that had 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles on them.
Oh, jeez.
And kept them together, going through safety inspections and emissions and keeping them in one piece.
My name is Meg. I am a mechanic by trade. Took a couple years, but I decided to go back and get my mechanical engineering degree. Had spent a couple years in racing before I took a sharp turn and end up at my current job in the corporate world as a design engineer, and more recently have started a newsletter and an Instagram account educating women about the basics of car maintenance, things automotive.
My name's Eliza Leon, and in 2017 I became a co-host of XOR, which is Extreme Off-Road and the Power Nation crew. And I did 2 seasons with them, and it was absolutely a whole lot of fun. My background is I've always worked in the auto field, some sort of capacity, mainly being a mechanic for quite a while. Then I kind of transitioned into service riding, and throughout all that time I've always loved off-roading so much that I would just kind of work to keep a project going. And that's kind of how XOR found me, is because I used to be racing sand drags and hill climbs and stuff around here in El Paso.
My name's Jay, and I own a motorcycle shop here in Boston with an amazing staff, a handful of mechanics who are basically like family to me, as well as a whole community of people in Boston that have been more than supportive. I can go on a whole rant about that. I've been doing this for basically my whole life. It's kind of like the only language of career that I know, and basically started off as an early teenager thinking I knew what I was doing, trying to fix stuff, telling people I was a skilled mechanic, and just the trial and error for most of my teenage years into my 20s working on motorcycles. And it kind of grew with the support of like a whole community of people into a shop that's now a full service shop. We do full maintenance on all year makes and models, as well as restorations on antique and rare bikes. And then myself and sometimes with some of my staff members, we build custom bikes and make stuff. I like to make stuff.
I decided that I wanted to work on cars. There wasn't any great thing. I just thought, I didn't want to work in an office. I wanted to be able to, be independent. I like to take things apart and put them back together. And so it seemed like an interesting career.
When I was leaving school, I wanted to do a trade. I always remember when I was a little kid, when you think back on the things that you liked, I just like making stuff.
Yeah.
I liked sort of having some raw materials and then having a finished thing. That was kind of very satisfying for me. So yeah, I thought about a trade, but I wasn't quite sure. And I thought maybe do I want to make furniture or something? And if you're not sure and you're a woman, you kind of get pushed down the go to college route, so that's what I did. I had put on a few gigs and stuff, so it was maybe this would be cool. So yeah, I wound up doing that for my whole 20s, and basically then I was living in Dublin at the time. I moved from there up to a really rural part of Ireland.
Okay.
But even like working remotely, there wasn't any work around just at that point. I found it really tough. And for some reason, I decided like there was a great welding course up the road, and like I had literally never welded. I never really thought about welding, but somehow I just asked them about enrollment, and I went in, and I just loved it. The rest is history.
That's awesome.
I was a senior in high school, and I played basketball. So that was from all the way up from 8 to 18. I was a baller, and I received a full scholarship to play basketball at a college. Though I was in high school, UTI came and did a presentation, blew my mind, and I was like, man, that's what I want to do right there. You know, I was headstrong on that. My mom was like, look, you work this hard. Let's try this. Just try this scholarship thing out. I did that, and I lasted about 6 to 7 months. You know, I started partying a little too much. You know, got caught up in the other lifestyle. So I came back home, and from like my years from 18 to 22, 23, I was going down kind of a slippery slope, you know, a dark path or whatever. But then, man, I found the light. You know, I found God then, you know, and I had turned my life around. And then I remembered that presentation from UTI. I was like, look, that's what I want to go back to. So in like 2013, I was 23 at the time. I went to UTI, and I never looked back.
Back in 2010, I was addicted to drugs, and I committed some crimes, and I was sentenced to 5 years in prison. And when I got to prison, you have to work a prison job, and they have an industry program where they weld and fabricate. So I was like, why not do that? It was also the highest paying job in prison at a whopping 38 cents per hour. So I started the industry program. I got out. I was going to finish my associates, but then I was like, what am I going to do with a liberal arts degree? Like, I need a job, you know, that pays. So, and I went to the open house for the welder fitter program, and I met the instructor. I did that. It was a 6 months program. It was every single day for I think 8 or 9 hours. The last month was an internship where I work now. And that's how I got started. And I'm also celebrating 11 years opiate free in December.
Yay! Like, when did you decide I want to be a monster truck driver?
Yeah, you know, I always loved big trucks, and I loved racing. Like, I feel like my whole entire life. My dad, the day I was born, literally raced out of the hospital. My uncle came in and said, look, Marilyn, my mom, if you don't have this girl by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're out of here. We have a driver's meeting to get to. We gotta go. And he was racing dirt track, right? So I feel like it's kind of, I was born into it, you know? He's still a mechanic to this day. My mom is a service writer. It's there. And I never really took too much interest in cars until I went to a Monster Jam event, and I was totally hooked. It was just the energy of a show, the adrenaline, the smell, the sound, like everything totally like captivated me. And I almost didn't even go to that event in Minneapolis that year because I was, you know, 15, 16 years old. I was like, let me see what everyone else is doing tonight and see what's going on in town. And I was like, oh, nothing. All right. Yeah, sure. You guys have the extra ticket. I'll come hang out. I like monster trucks.
All right.
And then I walked out of the Minneapolis Metrodome. I was like, that's what I'm going to do someday. Like, that is exactly what I want to do. So I was watching Medusa, and she got out and she flicked her hair out of her helmet. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I was like, yes, that's what I want to be someday. And ever since then, it just stuck.
Do you think seeing a woman doing it was part of what made you like feel like you could do it too?
100%. One thing to like walk out and be like, yeah, that's what I want to do someday. But to have a woman doing it and seeing somebody else already do it, it was like, it's attainable kind of thing.
So my name's Emily Weaving. I'm from Shropshire, which is a nice rural part of the UK. And I am currently working as a mechanical engineer in the defence industry. I'm developing the next generation of military vehicles. And so my background, I was brought up in a motorsport family. Well, a family full of, I think you guys say gearheads. So we would call us petrol heads, yeah. So my granddad used to race in the motorcycle Grand Prix in like the 40s and 50s. And both my parents both of them rode motorcycles as I grew up. So I was kind of brought up in that environment. And I started out life, as a motorcycle mechanic. So for 5 years, I worked in a few dealerships. I worked in a custom shop, and I worked in the British Superbike paddock as a race technician, which was amazing.
I bet.
And then so I had a bit of a career change when I was 24. And I joined JCB on their degree apprenticeship scheme. And then the past 8 years, I've been working as a mechanical engineer, specializing in testing and development, really, going from things like diesel engines through to motorcycle helmets and now military vehicles.
That's probably the good thing about mini trucking is because the cars are so cheap. Like, they're work use, they're everywhere, and you can get parts so easily. So if I chop something up and I stuff it up, it's not really scary. Like, I just try it again with another panel. Like, I think having that mini trucking background, just working on cheap cars helped a lot. Like, if you started with a project that costs like 30 grand, I think you'd be a lot more scared to actually chop it up because those parts are so unavailable. So I don't know, I just wasn't scared to get it wrong, pretty much. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's a really good perspective and a really cool point.
So when I was young, I was obsessed with race cars. When I was like 12 years old, my mom took me to my first race at Road America in Wisconsin. And I just became obsessed with all things race car. Into my teens and all through high school,
It was just a feeling, just something deep in my heart. And I was like, I really want to do this. My parents saw the drive and the full support was there from the very second I brought it up.
It's always interesting to hear that moment when some spark gets lit, right? And then everything from there on out is totally different. And what that spark was or why it resonated so deeply, is always so fascinating to me. But why? Because we all come up with ideas, right? Like, we come up with crazy ideas. We're like, it would be cool. But there's the things we think about, and then there's the things that we do. And what makes that difference? Do you know what it was that spoke to you so deeply about this, that you were like, I'm dropping everything and I'm going to dive into a world that I know nothing about, and I have zero skills, but I'm just like, it's calling to me. Do you know what it was that was calling to you so deeply?
I wish I did. I have no idea. No idea. So those friends that I had in high school, they would work on their own cars, and I would just sit there and watch and be like, wow, it's so amazing that there's so many components, and you can just look at it and be like, I know what this is and I know what this does. And this has this effect on something else. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. And it went from me just kind of being like, oh yeah, I know what that is, to now it's like, oh, XYZ on top of whatever it is, having an in-depth conversation. And it changed a lot. And the people in the industry are amazing. So I wouldn't change anything for the world.
Another thing I think that's harder for women in male-dominated trades is we feel like we're almost set to a higher standard too, right? I experienced that in MMA a lot. It seemed like the bar was always moving for me while the men's bar stayed in the same place. So I had to do more, I had to train harder. And I feel like it's kind of the same thing. We're applying that pressure to ourselves in these industries because it's like a proving yourself type of thing, because you want to prove that you do belong here and you do know enough about what you're doing to call yourself a technician. And so I think that's another thing that we deal with as well and put pressure on ourselves too.
Oh, 100%. And sometimes I wonder how much of it is in my head versus actually happening. That pressure to feel like I have to be 10 times as good to get half of the respect. How has that been for you in the RV side? How have the men that you've encountered and the people in the industry accepted you?
It's quite variable. So overall, well, for instance, if you go to apply to the service department of a dealership as a woman, they're going to move you over to the service side first. To the sales side first. So there is a lot of resistance. So there's that, but then you come across people who are super open-minded and who love that you're working in the industry and who want to teach you everything that they can and share their wisdom with you. So unfortunately, they aren't as common as the more closed-minded folks, but they do exist and they're out there, and it's always a pleasure to meet them. But overall, it's always, people are always surprised when I tell them I'm an RV technician. And it's almost like they don't even quite believe me.
Right.
And I have had customers turn me away because I'm a woman and they didn't want a woman working on their RV.
And they've said that point blank.
Point blank. And you know, that's okay for me. Then I have time to go serve someone else who appreciates me.
That's a good mindset
You know?
to be in.
So it's just one of those things. And I feel like having worked on construction crews as the only female, you know, they always give you the worst job to perform, that the busybody stuff they don't want to do, detailed kind of work. So I'm used to that, and used to becoming kind of the top crewman anyway because of the quality of my work. And so it's one of those things that I'm pretty good at brushing it off and kind of keeping it pushing these days. But sometimes it's just like, really?
Yeah. You know, we talk all the time about the tech shortage and how we need more technicians, but we don't often talk about the fact that we have a serious like tech instructor shortage too. Like there's not a lot of folks doing what you do and being willing to share their knowledge and put up with high school age kids and college age kids, and you know, like there's not a lot of people doing that. So I bow down to you seriously for doing what you do. I think it's absolutely amazing, and I have a lot of respect for all the shop instructors out there, you know.
Thank you.
Doing
Thank you. It's one of those things you really ought to like what you do, because if you don't, the other things can be tough to deal with. But I enjoy helping the next generation of technicians. I think you talk about all the time about this industry lacking mentorship, and that I felt like was a big obstacle for me. So if I can help anybody in that same place that I was and say, hey, here's a couple of extra little tips, do this, don't do this.
Right.
And just to help them show the ropes, I think even more than the information given, the comfort of like, oh, I've got somebody on my team that's going for me, and a resource. I still have students from years ago who will message me every once in a while and say, hey, I'm working on this thing. What do you think? And not even that I there are lots of people who've been working on cars for a lot longer than I have, but I help with what I know. You know, if it's something I know about, boom, I've done 10 of those. This is what you should expect.
Right.
Or I've never done that before, but this is what I would do.
But try this, and this, yeah.
Yeah, just to throw out a life preserver of some sort, because I've been there, you know, like I've been in the shop where I'm like just Googling everything because I don't want to necessarily show like, oh man, I've never done this job before, which by the way, all you young technicians out there are getting in there, like that's it. Most of your jobs coming in for the first few years and be like, oh shit, I've never done this before.
Totally.
And you just got to figure it out. But that's half the fun.
You got to be willing to ask questions and
the wild side of that is I was respected more by the people there in that establishment than I have been in the trades.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's
you need to say
nuts.
that. You need to say that again for the folks in the back.
Yeah. I was respected more in a gentleman's club than I was in the trades. And
Talk to me about
they
that.
had to. Well, we had security guards and they made sure we were safe. You couldn't get away with touching someone there. You were booted out. You were dragged out. I could launch my stiletto at you and I didn't get in trouble for it. So it was a different environment where you had, you know, other than what you did for work that some people consider shameful, you were respected by that establishment, where I was not safe at work most of the time. I was sexually assaulted at work, and that's why I left the union. So there was no one there looking out for me. I would have loved to have been able to tip out a security guard to come with me at work, honestly. Right. So that's the interesting part.
Thank you, first of all. I love the chance to make this normal, you know. 8 years ago, my best friend Crystal, who was a brilliant carpenter, a brilliant person, and a very quiet person, suicided. And I didn't know what depression was until that experience, that day, and the years after. And that kind of took depression and mental illness and it rubbed it in my face in the worst way possible. It threw my mental health out the window.
Oh, I'm sure.
I didn't know who to talk to about it. Nobody taught me how to talk about it. Nobody taught me that this could ever even be a thing. And it wasn't until, I had a long stint afterwards of drinking, doing anything to not feel it, that I had a friend reach out to me and basically kind of shake me and say, like, that's enough. That's enough now. You're not doing good. You don't look good. She wouldn't want this. Go see somebody. So I went to therapy. And it was everything in me to not go to therapy. I desperately did not want to do it. I made excuses. I would go to one and I would never see them again. And then I would go to another. And it wasn't until I found the right therapist that it really took what I was feeling that I didn't know how to put words to it. And she said, put words to it and take the words and tell people and make this your route of how to navigate mental health in the trades, because I just kept watching my friends die. Yeah. And nobody was telling me about it, That's the thing, is we're not talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's your people who are smiling and laughing with you the day before.
100%. I want to thank you so much for being willing to share that story, and I'm so grateful for your friend that was willing to take you and shake you, and the perseverance to keep going to different therapists, because I think you're absolutely right. Like, that is a thing that happens where, like, okay, that wasn't the right therapist for me. See, this sucks. And I think particularly with tradespeople who are brought up to be resistant to this idea of accepting help, if that first person isn't right for them, they're like, see, this is BS, right?
100%, you nailed it. I was that way. It's this idea of finally giving in to vulnerability and then feeling so stupid for allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And that's part of it. That's part of the beating ourselves up. This cycle of abuse that occurs with people in the trades who can't talk, who don't find a safe friend to speak about, when we're all desperate for a safe buddy to talk to,
100%. Yeah. A woman I had on a couple of months ago, she said her line was great. She said, hurt people. And that is our industry. Like, the trades is so full of, and I think it's our world in general, but I think the trades particularly is so full of people who are hurt, who don't have words for that hurt, who then, well, I'm hurting, so you're going to hurt. And it was beaten into me, so I'm going to beat it into you. And it just keeps on generationally passing that torch.
And would I blame it on me being a Black female? Maybe a little bit, but I just think a lot of people are just unhappy. I think the world just need a little bit more self-love, and then I think it will be a little bit better. But I can't just blame everything on racism. But a lot of people just miss bullshit. Like, that's just really it. Absolutely.
I feel like we'd have less of the isms if there was more self-love too, because so many of the isms, sexism, racism, homophobia, which isn't an ism, but it's an ism, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, all of that, right? Like, all of that stuff stems out of, like, fear.
Mm-hmm.
I think. And when you have more self-love, you don't have the need to put others down regardless of who they are or what they look like.
Right. You wouldn't waste the time or the energy. You just would look at people as humans. That's how I look at it. I look at people as humans. I'm a human being. I wear these hats and these titles because this is just what I was born in. But I don't go into situations looking for anything to divide me up until they divide me up. You know what I mean? And then here we go with, now you got to sit back and kind of realize, like, is this an unsafe place? You know what I mean? Because people that are, not happy, they do unhappy shit.
But it definitely wasn't easy at all, like, to be working there. Like, just, I have people watching you all the time because it's just like they're then all, or they want you to mess up.
That's an interesting point that you just made, and I don't want to gloss over that. Just saying, like,
absolutely.
Sometimes it's that they're in awe, and sometimes it's that they're judging and they expect you to fail.
Yeah.
But whether it's for good or for bad, knowing that everybody is always watching you, like that in and of itself, even if they're supportive people, like, right? Even if it's somebody who's like, oh my God, that's so amazing, I'm so supportive of this, they're still watching you. And that's still
till this day. It never fails. And the hardest part about working in the shop, especially for somebody that wants to progress, which was me, I wanted to be a master tech. So I had to fight to get the jobs in order for me to succeed. Like, they just wanted me to be a loop tech. And I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I can do tires, brakes, oil changes all day. And that's all they were giving me. Yes, I would make hours, but I'm working twice as hard. I'm staying so much later because, somebody wants to go get a haircut, so now I got to pick up their slack. No, that's not. No, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So I had to fight to get, like I was telling before, I had to fight to get the bigger jobs.
Yeah.
To get the diagnostic work, to get the work that was going to help me become an A tech, to become a B tech. I almost took legal action when I went in to get reviewed for APAY, because I was already doing APAY work. So I had to go. I went, I think, at least 3 times to get APAY, and I almost took legal action because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, why am I fighting to get APAY 3 times?
I dealt with unpleasant environments in other industries as well. So it's not like it's just construction.
Sure.
And the self-confidence, the intelligence, the creativity, the innovation, the teamwork, the collaboration that can come, in my experience, only truly with the skilled trades. When you have humans building together, creating together, to physically see the growth every day, the camaraderie, that outweighs the negative aspect. And also, it's changing. Look,
yeah,
people are smarter. I know it might not seem that way all the time. I get it.
Change is slow sometimes.
But there's a lot of, like, the young guys, they didn't look at me as a female in the trades. They looked at me like a coworker. They treated me like a coworker. They didn't see any difference.
What do you say to industry as far as how industry can support what you're doing and support itself? How can industry support industry, right? Like, how can we support more people coming in? How can they step up? What can they do?
Oh man.
That's a big one, I know, sorry.
Yeah, no, but I think it's a good question, and being an automotive program, being a community college program, what it looks like to industry is that we need stuff, right? We need money, we need equipment, we need consumables. What I ask of industry is, I don't ask for donations, I don't ask for fundraising, I don't ask for you to come in and paint my walls. I ask that you lead by example. I ask that you come in and you talk to my students about your experience. I ask that you commit to taking my graduates and walking them through the process of their apprenticeship. I ask that you teach them everything you possibly can for as long as you possibly can, so they can be a better version of you. That's what we need from industry. I know I'm in a very privileged place to say that I don't need money in my program. That is not the case for a lot of places, 100%. But I think where industry can better support us is to join us in this process of helping students solidify collision repair as their career. Build relationships, just be mentors. That's what we need.
You're a person of color, you're a woman, you're in the automotive industry. Like that's double minority in the automotive world, right? Did you find, like, I can speak to my experience as a woman, but did you find one or the other being harder for people to accept, or did?
I would say being in Canada, I love Canada. I love Toronto for the fact that we're so inclusive. My being a visible minority makes no difference whatsoever.
That's
Being a
awesome.
female didn't make it difficult for me. It just made it a topic of interest.
Okay.
Kind of like I've never experienced any what's the word I'm looking for? The opposite of encouragement.
Just being discouraged, dissuaded.
Any discouragement.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
That is,
yeah, it's been really good.
I want to move to Toronto.
My career has been so far a perfect storm of opportunity and just people who were or have been in the right mindset to support someone like me.
That's awesome.
I think I've been really, really lucky.
You don't have your family supporting you, and now you have nowhere to go. How did you get from there to here? Because holy bejesus, that is a far cry from where you're at now.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we lived in a park, and we lived in imagine this, 1980 Celica Supra, which I wish I had today. Oh my God, fun times. But I laid the chairs back in the back, and that's where the kids slept. I had a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old, and that's how we did it. And so what I did is I cooked for the homeless people at the park, and in exchange for at night, they would sleep around the car and protect us. In the morning, I'd get up, I'd go to the gym, I'd work out, I'd shower myself and the kids. I'd go to school. I was going for business management. And then 3 nights a week, I was bartending. And I did that for 4 years.
Or how long were you living in your car for?
3 months in the car.
For 3 months.
Yeah. And I got very lucky. I thought, let me read some books. And I read Tony Robbins. And he says in the book to interview several people that you think of a job that you might like to do. And so I set out to do that. And then I thought, well, what do very wealthy people do? Well, they go to networking events. That's kind of when networking events were fairly new. And so I thought, well, I'll go to a networking event. And I met this very well-to-do business developer or commercial developer. And he says, well, I've got this fourplex and I'm trying to get it all set up. If you know anybody who does remodeling or you meet somebody, let me know so that I can hire them. I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. I said, you meet those people and I'll go meet these people and blah, blah, blah. I don't know why we started talking. I didn't know his name. Very, very older gentleman, like in the 70s or something. And so at the end of the event, I didn't meet anybody. So I'm walking out. He's like, hey, did you meet anybody who could help me out? I'm like, no, I didn't. And I said, you know what? I'm pretty smart. I can help you figure it out. We can either do it together or I can figure it out and do it myself. And he says, you're serious? And I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. I said, I learn fast. So he says, you know what? He goes, I'm going to give you a chance. He goes, my only request is that you live in that fourplex and live in the unit that you're working on. That is definitely God. There are no coincidences. Mm. So he says, all you need is a mattress and a dresser to put your clothes. I'm like, perfect. I'll bring it. He goes like, do you need to break your lease? And I'm like, yeah, I got to talk to my landlord. I had no landlord. And I went back the next day. I said, my landlord says I need $1,000 to break my lease. So he hands me $1,000. He says, go break your lease. I want to get a truck so I can get that dresser and the mattress. And I said, oh, I already have a friend bringing it over because I didn't want him to see that I was living at the park.
Yeah.
And that was my very strong beginning. So.
Oh my gosh, Bernice.
Yeah.
Love how full bore you go into things. You're like, I kind of like
sometimes
this.
It works and sometimes it's like not the best because then the burnout is definitely much faster with
doing things that way, but it's fun.
That's a fair point.
And I do enjoy it.
Were you always that way? Like as a kid too, just like you went all in 100% with things?
I think so. Yeah, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do this now. Basically my life motto is like, I'll show up and see what happens. There's like not a lot of planning that goes into it, and it's kind of gonna go there and see how things turn out.
Interesting.
And it makes it exciting because then I think you don't have as, it's hard when you have expectations like, oh, it's going to go this way and this is going to happen. But when you just show up and do stuff, it's kind of like how my mechanic experience is. Like, I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go do this now. And I was like, oh, this is not how I expected it, but this is the way it is. So I guess I'm just going to deal with it.
You may know her, Miss Faye Hadley. If you know me from my TV show, you know that she is my incredible co-host. We've actually known each other since before she was on All Girls Garage with me. Welcome, Faye. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it was
Absolutely.
2015 we met at World Pack. I was a student. You were a teacher.
Right? I know. Crazy.
14,
So long ago.
somewhere.
Who would have known that we'd be where we're at now at this point?
Never in a million years. This was definitely not the way I expected my career to go, which is, I think, part of why this is such a good topic.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's bring in our second guest. We have Miss Angelina Alcantar, and she is joined by her little baby. We've got a little munchkin over there. So, hi,
Victoria.
So just
Victoria
she's
says
so
hi.
cute. I love it.
She actually
Proof-
just said "Mama" right before I came outside.
like for the first
For the
time.
first time. For
What?
the first time. Yeah.
Oh my
Pretty
gosh.
important.
Oh,
That is
that's a pretty big deal. I
huge.
wish we had captured it.
Oh my
Live.
God. She
I
just
did.
had her
I did.
first
I got
word.
it. I got it on video. I'll send it to you guys.
Oh my goodness, we're making history right now, people.
Oh my goodness. My heart is like overflowing right now. That is so precious. I love it. Angelina is proof that like you can do everything.
Words of advice to somebody who wants to open up their own shop.
Be prepared to give everything. Time, energy, your life, your money, and maybe even bits of your family. So you just have to be prepared to be all in.
Not to be morose or anything. It's true though.
It is.
It's so true. And that doesn't mean it's not worth it sometimes. But
I
you
mean,
have to be prepared.
Hard work pays off. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you put your everything in, you're gonna get more
Your
than that
everything
out.
back.
But it's gonna take time.
Absolutely.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
No, and not without a lot of sweat and a lot of blood and a lot
Right.
of tears and a lot of death. All right. Second question.
Shoot.
The younger you is sitting out there watching this.
I want to say enjoy your young years first and foremost, and reach for the stars.
Looking like a true mom.
Yep.
If you don't find what you're looking for, the first place that you end up at, keep looking. Like just how you go into interview shops. They interview you, you need to interview them. Ask them what their pay rate is, what's their turnover rate. That is a very big, huge indication as to what it's like to work in that shop.
Yeah.
If what you like to do is work on cars, or whatever trade, because I feel like trades are the hardest to get into.
I agree.
But they are also the most important jobs out there. Like, we literally keep everything going. Without mechanics, there's no cars on the road.
Right.
There's no trucks on the road. Without plumbers, you don't have indoor plumbing. Without electricians, you don't have light inside your house. Like,
Yeah,
the list
preach.
goes on. The list goes on. But if something that you want to do is a trade, educate yourself. find a good mentor and find a champion. Someone that is going to stand up for you when you can't stand up for yourself.
If I could give advice to anybody who's kind of on the fence about moving forward in your auto career, or just feeling like it's not for you because you had a real bad week and you messed up a lot, man, when you get that feeling of you messed up so bad or you're scared to do it, that's the time.
All right, guys. That's all we have time for. I hope you enjoyed this sampling of the With Her Two Hands podcast. If you're new here and you're not already subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Leave comments down below. Dive into the archives of this series. Check out these incredible women's stories. And of course, make sure you come back every Wednesday for a new live stream episode celebrating women who build, fix, and make the things that make the world go round with her own two hands. And of course, every Monday, I release an archive episode from our past life as Trades Lady Happy Hour on Instagram. So 2 times a week, you get an opportunity to watch With Her Two Hands. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this journey. I cannot believe we've come so far. I'm so thrilled. And I know that it's just going to keep on getting better. There are so many more incredible women yet to meet and yet to celebrate. If you know one of those incredible women, send me a message. Let me know. We'd love to have them on the series. If there's a specific topic that you'd love to hear us cover, make sure you leave that in the comments down below as well. And for now, I'm going to leave you with just some little funnies, some little outtakes, some little poking fun at myself. Until next week, be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. Be good human beings. And we'll see you later. I know. Can I sidetrack for a hot second? Because you right at the intro, you did without further ado is what you said. And I've been going through, I'm in the process of converting my Instagram live stream thing over to a podcast format. So I've been going through all the old episodes, and I realized that is my tick. Is without further ado. The number of episodes where I'm without further ado, without further ado, without further ado. So I'm putting together an edit of all of my without further ados. And it's really kind of comical. At least I think it is. Nobody else is going to find it funny, but I think it's funny.
There's a supercut of just that?
Yeah, I'm working on editing that together because I think
Do you know you're doing it when you
I
do it?
don't. Well, now I do. Now because I've seen it over and over. I did not know that it was a thing. And then I'm watching these. I'm like, oh my God, I say that. And then I went live the next day. I was like, all right, without further ado. Damn it, I just did it. Without further ado. So without further ado. 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 So without further ado. And now, without further ado. Without further ado. Without further ado, I'm going to stop lob. Without further ado. So, without further ado, never have I felt better saying that. Without further ado, let's get rid of me blabbing. Unbeknownst to her, she picked my very favorite. This is the unicorn of whiskey.
It's been sitting there. I'm like, what is this thing with the horse on top? So it fits.
It's amazingness is what it is.
Cheers. And I've never had it before.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Jamie's not convinced.
Like brake clean.
It's not like brake clean at all. This is magic in a bottle. And see what a successful auto repair shop looks like and acts like. She doesn't like the bland ends. Yeah. I can take this bottle off of your hand.
Reach for the stars.
Reach for the stars on her glass. She's
Yep.
not actually talking about whiskey. She's
There's
talking about
stars.
on the glass. And we are reaching for the stars right now. Beautiful.
Damn.
Yeah, it's not growing on her at all. Final words. Anything you want to share?
I miss Bogi Latiner.
No.
That's my.
I miss you.
Those are my final words. No, it was so nice talking to you. Thank you so much for inviting